Welcome, all you spooksters out there. We've been doing a great job at bringing on horror guests, horror, talking movies. But as you know, I've been going, con to con to con, and the good kind of cons too.
Must be nice to have money.
I don't come home with money.
Had money. It's like going to a strip club.
Yeah, but it's without the regret. I don't feel ashamed or regret the next day. I will say that I've never come home from a con with any regret. But I did, meet
Hired at a wrestling event.
when I was in Terracon. I met a good group. They got me with, "Hey, you want a free shirt?" And this was the shirt. And I looked at it, and it's for this movie here.
Yeah.
Santa,
We're so simple.
Santa
so
8000.
We are simple, so simple though. You want a free shirt? That's like kids in the van. You want some candy, kid? You want to come in the van? For us, you want a free shirt? Okay.
It's brilliant marketing, though. It's brilliant marketing.
It is.
And then me, I talked to both the people that were at the booth. The director and the booth that worked on this, which was Michael Neal and Greg Anson. And I invited them both on the show. So I got them both with us tonight. We're going to bring them on right now.
Hello.
Gentlemen.
Welcome, guys.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Doing good. We're here to talk about this baby here. Infinite Santa 8000.
Yeah.
Again, I'll say, brilliant marketing. I mean, you get me with the free shirt. So, I'm already off and thinking this has got to be something good. These guys got to be cool if they're able to give out free merch like that.
Can I point out before we went to horror, we were doing independent wrestling. How many free shirts did you get off independent wrestling? And if you did, how long a period of time did it take for that free shirt?
I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever received a free shirt in wrestling.
That's why I'm going to horror.
I do. But it wasn't just a free horror shirt. There's it's part of a product. And I was saying, bro, part of a independent product. Again, keeping with the theme, we come from independent wrestling. I believe that's the backbone of the wrestling world. You can't get somewhere unless you start somewhere. And I'm the horror world. I know it's a little bit different. There's kind of two worlds. There's the independent world. There's Hollywood, but then there's still a middle ground. Like, you got movies like Halloween 1, which was an independent film, but also a blockbuster success many years later, a cult classic. So you get a little bit of a different feeling in horror, which is great because everything to me is tangible. If you can get a camera, you can get a crew, you can get a sound guy, and you can have a good idea, you can put something together.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think that's why Michael and I, before we did Infinite Santa, we made another movie called The Drive-In Horror Show, which is a horror movie, like 5 short stories at a haunted drive-in. And I think it's why we did horror on the independent level, and kind of there's a big audience for it, and it's pretty easy to do. I'm not saying this in a bad way, but the acting doesn't have to be as great as it should be with our movie. It's like, and you can do stuff on the very cheap, very, very cheap. And as long as you have a spooky story, I think people like it. I mean, you gotta have that idea. And I think Mike and I, at least one point in our life, had a lot of like horrible horror ideas,
Oh, I still have tons. I have notebooks and Google Docs overflowing with stuff I could never possibly do. Not nearly enough time.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, honestly, it comes down to infinite ideas, and it's how far do you want to take that camera? I mean, we've seen horror movies that have taken it to the absolute extremity of where you can almost bring film to the borderline. You got directors getting arrested, you got directors getting banned from countries. We recently had like Fred Vogel on, who did, the August Underground series. That movie was banned in places. That movie was looked and frowned upon in places. But it's also taking that art, which I do believe cinema is a form of art, film is a form of art, and bringing it to that level and seeing what you do with it.
I think that's exactly right. And one of the nice things about being independent, whether it's a live action film or this film in particular, Infinite Santa, you can kind of do what you want. I mean, you do have the limitations of budget, but I think it makes you more creative. And they have this saying that if you do a project, you have 3 things to choose from, like quality, time, and money. Like you can be fast, good, or cheap, kind of pick 2. And so if you're independent, you have your time. And I mean, I think Infinite Santa is probably the ultimate example of that. I mean, it took us years, 3 years to make it, not kind of the director's cut. And it was just breaking it down into tiny little pieces, sitting there and animating, getting as much as we could done. And we didn't have anybody telling us we couldn't do it. It's a weird idea.
Yeah.
We really wanted to do it, but there was never any time where there was someone with, like from a studio being like, you can't have Santa do this or do that. We're just like, well, we're going to make him do whatever we want because it's ours.
Now, let me ask you, like, compared to a live action film where you got to hire, actors and actresses. I mean, I know with these, you'd get voice actors, but I mean, what's the budget look like outside of,
I mean, I think I actually forget the budget. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't like $10 million. The biggest thing we had to pay for is the people to draw our characters. Mike and I animated it. We don't really draw. So, I mean, it was so long ago, and some parts of it, like the web series, didn't really cost us anything because we didn't really know what we were doing. We were using our buddies, and it was like, oh, here's a couple $100 to draw this and do that. So it, over time, because like Mike said, the biggest thing we had was time. Like once we had all the pieces, it took us a long time to put it together. And that was really Michael and I. Like you're on this side, Mike. So yeah, that's kind of when you said like the bigger cost. It was. I mean, I don't specifically know, but it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't like like $1 million or something like that.
No, I was just like curious, like what would be the major cost in that? Would it be like the software? Would it be the animation? Depending on what you're doing personally, I guess in that case, if you were drawing too, then the cost would be almost minimal.
Yeah, and if I could, but we pretty much use off the bench software. Like we use Photoshop and like After Effects, and you had to buy them as a bundle then, but now you can get one at a time, so you could probably do it a lot cheaper.
Honestly, like now you can. I think you can get you can rent it for like the whole Adobe suite for like $50 a month, and like if you're fast enough, you can get everything, all your editing and everything done in a month. So it's like okay, $50 compared to like I started with a graphic design. Photoshop alone was like $7.99.
Yeah, no.
For a license that was good for about a year, and then the new version would come out, which you could get a key that would upgrade it. And that was just that. But I was gonna say, like, this reminded me of almost like early like Newgrounds, like Flash almost cartoon. When I watched it, which it's a retro kind of style, but it gives almost it's a good style for horror. Like it gives this raw aspect.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that too, because so to clarify what Greg said too, so we're animators, but we did this in a way where we don't have to draw because we can't draw. So what we do is we have people draw, like Santa, for example. We get one head, we get some eyes and mouths and expressions and stuff, and then we bring that into After Effects every time on its own. Then we make it move, and I light it, and we make it kind of cinematic. So it looks hand drawn, but it isn't. And that's a big time saver. And then, like you said,
you're not drawing frame by frame at that point.
Well, here's a good example. So, like, let's say you wanted to have Santa waves on arms like this. In After Effects, you tell it at the beginning, the arms here, and then a second later, it's here. It draws everything in between. So
the beautiful onion, I call it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Sorry, Greg, what were you going to say? You were jumping into.
No. That's exactly what I was going to say about the lighting, and making some minor motions, but it's definitely in a style of, I mean, as we progress and if we kept going, we've done some other stuff, but it was definitely gone for that style. And I think we like the idea of creating not something from nothing, but I mean, it's real easy because in the movie, like some of the most difficult things in the movie sometimes don't resonate with the audience. And some of the easiest stuff for us to produce resonates. So like you learn lessons as you keep going. So it's really about the character's design, the way it looks, and really putting the heart in the story. But when you think about it, it is kind of basic, but Mike has a good film background. And a lot of times our things just don't sit there. Like if they laugh, they blink, they do a little bit of motion, even though the animation isn't like this deep 3D.
No, like I remember using, well, back in the day it was owned by Macromedia, but it was Macromedia Flash, and then Adobe actually bought the lights. But I used to make short films in Flash all the time, and they would look very basic. They would look very, bland. You could make them, 3D, but then you would bring them into an After Effects, add the lighting effects, maybe add a little bit of VFX if you wanted, do all this, post-production off of that, because it is an easy app. You want a ball to move from A to B, you put the ball here, you go 20 frames forward, put the ball here, it does all the work in between that, like an original artist back in the day would have to hand draw each frame single on a panel that would take, a half a year. Yeah. You'd have to have a team of people doing it to make it, to actually make it fast.
And what was really amazing is in After Effects, and this is, I think, in the web series, like the first one we've done, it's up on the web, where when we showed it to people, Mike and I just were like, when Mike is in charge of it, but we both know how to do lights in After Effects. It just changed our drawings from simple Photoshop drawings, which were done nice, to something where it's like, oh, this looks like something out of a Disney movie because we separated the background. We do this so there's a little blur. And it's like, oh, that wasn't that difficult to do. That was just how we planned putting our artwork together, the lights. And then, our motion is relatively simple, but it tells a story. Lighting really tells a story. So I think,
and I believe, like, honestly, the lighting in it takes that 2D film and makes it into a 3D film without having to use 3D animation, because that's a whole different ballgame. Because then you need 3D modeling software and all that, and this isn't that.
No.
But with the little bit of lighting, it adds the color, it adds the depth, it almost gives it a cinematic lens flare. You can get the cinematic blurs. You can do all of that with a little bit of lighting and some trickery that make it look like it's, boom, right in front of your face, pow, 3D.
Yeah, I'm a big... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, which is, to me, it's eye-catching, and
oh, thanks.
One of the things, like I started off and right off the bat, it was like right in my face, which is kind of what I look for. And so I'm like, we're in an era, you got to kind of get your attention fast. It's not a slow burn cartoon. It's boom.
Oh, yeah.
I want my buffalo.
Yeah, that's right. It was...
I'd like to ask real fast, what does your inspiration come from? Like, where do you draw, your creativity from? Like, is it from, like, older, like, things you've seen in your childhood that you brought up, or like what? Like,
are you talking specifically because like how we came up with this idea, or how we come up with stuff in general? Because I think it's kind of two different
questions. In general, because I know you guys are multi-talented and you have different projects, and just in general.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny for me. Some of the general stuff actually applied to this. I'm a huge fan of animation in general. Like when I was a kid, I got books on Disney and Warner Brothers. The lighting is actually taken right. I love old Disney animation and the way everything moves separately. I mean, to me, in general, anything that sparks my imagination, whether it's, music or, literature, I love pretty much movies from any time period, but I love discovering things that are older. Like I got really into Lovecraft era. I've loved Lovecraft for a while, but like all the writing around the early 20th century, that's just sitting there waiting to be rediscovered, Clark Ashton Smith and all those guys. It's like, I'm inspired by people that I find that surprise me. you know, and I love bigger stuff too. Like, you know, when Jaws was around as a kid, I loved it. I love Star Wars. I love all that stuff. But the things where I feel like I stumble on something, I was like, oh, this is really fascinating, you know.
No, definitely, I get that. I snicker a little bit because I'm too the same way. You know, I enjoy a lot. I watch a lot of horror movies to be inspired to do horror. Like, you know, I'm in the mix of trying to do some short horrors. I want to make a couple anthology films. I want to work with a friend and maybe do a feature. You know, and talking with him. But I watch a lot of horror movies to kind of get, you know, a little bit inspired. I wouldn't say ideas, but just inspiration. And you know, I've been hooked on.
To interrupt, but you know, to be inspired, check out the latest thing, The Letter, that Versace put out. Right there, you know that he has what it takes to produce something amazing in the horror world.
Yeah, I was kind of bored at home waiting for him to
Yeah, it was amazing.
I did a little short video of basically I'm sitting there just impatient. I just keep opening, you know, checking the mailbox frantically, and finally at the end you just see me like on the ground dead. It's about 2 minutes long. I shot it all in about a half an hour, about an hour in editing. But
yeah, I don't bullshit anything. If I think that
no, he doesn't. He doesn't usually like my shit. He'll be like, "That's okay." But no, I've been actually watching a lot of like the old Italian giallo films and such. And my wife was giving me shit. She was like, "What are you watching, Ben-Hur?" I'm like, "No, this isn't even that old. It's from like '82. Like, give me a break here." But I like timepieces because they tell a story, and I actually find older horror to be a little bit scary because we don't have modern technology to save us. It's scary to me.
And what they believed in, and what people believed in back up, because you like, I go to sleep to bad YouTube free movies from like that, and I'll put on movies from the 40s, and exactly like you said, it's much watching it for the era and the way people behaved. But then like in the horror things, it's like, what were they afraid of? And it's unique. It's unique to see what things are kind of universal that are always around, you know.
It is. It's wild to say. I mean, I've watched it, and I don't believe it to be scary. I believe it to be entertaining. I believe it to be a little bit misleading due to the nature of the demon not having its proper Mesopotamian roots. But 9 out of 10 people at these cons, when they get asked the question, "What's the scariest film you ever say?" they'll all say The Exorcist. Every one of them, because they grew up in a time period when that was scary. Same people that grew up and watched Jaws. Jaws necessarily isn't scary today, but you know, my grandparents went to the movie theater, and I don't think they ever went in the water again.
I was taken at age 4 to see Jaws 2, and I had nightmares that night.
Yeah, like my grandparents stopped swimming. They stopped going near water. They didn't teach my mom how to swim. Like, it impacted them. And The Exorcist, same thing. People were very more religious then, and everything was a little more clear cut. When they saw this on film, they didn't know what to believe and think about it. Today, it's like, we've seen a million exorcism films. A lot of people have done takes on it. It's not as shocking. But yeah, like
he didn't live in the time and didn't get the time. It's kind of, you know.
Well, I mean, I can get, because I understand it, because you know, it's during a satanic panic, so you got a lot of people already scared about something.
Yeah.
And you throw a movie to the public like that, they get shocked. You know, you could do it today with the law. You could pull something out of the news headlines, and you could make a thriller out of it, and people are gonna be like, "Oh shit, I'm afraid to do this now."
Yep.
Without a doubt.
But I still, like I said, I appreciate it.
To get back to your question about like, where do we come with our influences? I haven't lately been writing a lot. I help people with their music, as you can see, and I'm more producing and helping people get their ideas along, which I kind of enjoy. But I do have ideas. Sometimes I think it's when you're inspired to do stuff. And we do have stuff coming up for Infinite Santa, but sometimes it's like, as much as doing your own thing, I like you said, I like watching movies. I'm lucky to get some scripts from people sometimes and just see what they're working on. And I really get inspired by that, by people who are so devoted to tell some story. And I really think, like, filmmaking, music, it's really important, you know?
It's a very nice community, I found, Like I said, even talking to some of the independent filmmakers that are out there. some of them have had done panels and such, and just listening to them speak and just getting to probe them a little bit. How do you do A and B, and them just telling you, I maneuvered through it this way, or make connections. Everybody has told me, especially with live action, the number one thing you need to make sure you have is good sound. Without good sound, the whole thing's junk.
Oh yeah.
So, and you can swap, you got a camera, go help somebody on a set and they'll help you. And it's almost a brotherhood. It's almost a small community, but when the horror people get together, everybody just wants to, create.
Sure. That's amazing. That's amazing. But you're definitely right about the audio, because for documentary stuff, like if you're interviewing someone and your camera breaks, you can put a different picture. If they're saying something they're never going to say again, you better have the audio of it. You can always sync a picture of them at some speech, but if they're saying something that, but yes, so we've been through it all. Mike and I, we've worked on a lot of stuff in the past. Just, it's why you have an extra camera, an extra sound guy, and stuff. It's just every production has its own flavor. And, just Mike and I knowing people in the independent film world, and it's every project, like no matter where on the pay scale, they're usually someone who's very passionate and has a lot invested in it besides, money or whatever, just because that's how really good projects get made.
That's how I feel like that's the person I am. Like I'd be the one that would go in and be like, okay, I'm 110% invested to this project. So, if it's 16-hour days, so be it, whatever it might be, let's go.
But that's, I think that's what we found. Like there is a community of just people who do that. And it's really nice that's around. And it's very important if you're trying to do your own thing and tell your story that you treat that community well, but realize like it does, some days you are going to shoot for 20 hours just because of the nature of the location, getting everybody there, getting everyone into makeup. And as long as you're like decent to people, it usually works out fine. Mike and I had numerous days of, for the different projects of just driving places, getting people in zombie makeup,
I heard the best thing to do is just make sure I have good catering when it comes to that, and everybody will be pretty much happy.
Yep. Coffee, water, and like some type of sugar. And then if you have like a bowl of fruit, you're probably fine.
I'll put sandwiches and platters out. I don't care. I'll feed people. Yeah. Whatever people want. If they're happy, then the project will be better, I feel.
That's it.
Happy people.
Food is definitely low blood sugar. People don't act well sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure. I wouldn't act well if I was hungry. I mean, unless I needed to be angry.
But that was one of the things about Infinite Santa. Unlike a normal production, I mean, and we did a little bit during COVID, like it wasn't, but we didn't really have like shooting days. It's more like just meeting up with the artists. A lot of it was done virtually. So Mike and I for a year worked in the same room, but in general, it's not like a set or something. And we recorded the vocals in like a couple of days, like way at the beginning, way before anything started,
Yeah, I mean, I guess in that case, you would, you get, your idea to the artist comes back with it. Then you guys, you pick your time to, whatever time you do to, either whether it's remote work or, together where you guys get it moving. And then, back to the artist, it goes back and forth until, everything is kind of done. But meanwhile, while the artist is working on one thing, I'm sure you guys can do post-production on another. So it's kind of like a flow.
Yeah, I think that's where the independent part came in. Like Mike and I, it's just me and him. And to navigate the 2,000 shots we needed, like we kind of dove in over our head after the web series, because it was so. I think if we ever move forward, we definitely, a lot of those things you said we would take into thing, but that was, we had a lot of just time, just putting into that. Cause it is difficult to, do every shot, make everything kind of flow together. I mean, these are things that just just, you have to have one scene match each other, whether it's lighting, whether it's composition and stuff. And that was just took time. That's,
I know. Just editing in general just takes time. Unless you do it, there's no other way to explain it. But it's not an instant process. Things take time to process. Things take time to even do things.
The editing actually took no time. It was us in After Effects making the shot. Once we rendered the shot out, there was only one shot, so it basically just went in the timeline.
Yeah, it's put in the timeline.
So we could also do something where we could, generally speaking, you make a film in live action, you plan everything ahead as much as you can. You want all your shots to match. Everyone's facing the right direction. You don't want to get home and realize you're missing a shot. In our case, we planned everything, but for example, if we made a shot with someone talking, like Infinite Santa talking with the villain Shackleton, we could render the dialogue from both of them. But then if we realized we needed to zoom in on something, once we know we're using second 17 and 4 frames to 19 and 3 frames, we go back to the original shot and do a zoom that fits perfectly. And because we did everything where we shrank it, when we animated, we could go in really close to get close-up details, because the actual drawings were the
pixel size or whatever.
Well,
yeah, I mean, we would go in so close. Actually, there was stuff in there before we fixed it in the director's cut that were stray pencil marks that ended up in it. Like, there were times where you could zoom in so close you could see a pixel from a pencil mark. So that kind of freedom to do it was really nice. And we were also like Greg said, when we did the web series first, we kind of just figured it out. And then we wrote the script and we're like, all right, well, it's a feature. Let's make it bigger and better. We wrote things in there we hadn't solved yet. So for example, it was a jetpack scene. We didn't know how to make flying work because it's all 2D. There's nothing 3D. Like you said before, there's nothing 3D. And we had hand-to-hand combat, which we did in the web series. I was like, I know we can do this better, but we just don't have time. And then we opened the movie with a 7-minute hand-to-hand combat scene that took months. I remember too, is one scene with the jetpack. It's actually in the trailer, so people can see it before they even see the movie, where he has these monsters on him and they're making him kind of swerve, like the jetpack's going up and down. And I remember when we were animating it, we had Santa moving, rotating and moving side to side, and we took the keyframes that line it up and slid them. So all of a sudden he was rotating and moving, and all the movement was off a little bit. And I remember looking at it with Greg and being like, oh my God, that was like $1 million. That was just us trying to figure things out. But that's the joy of something like this, is you aim for the stars, and we managed to get everything in there that I thought we could. I mean, we just kind of took it on faith. It's well, he needs to have a jetpack to make the story work. So let's figure it out, because otherwise.
And we figured it out too. We did really good storyboards. Not well drawn, but we would be like, oh, this is a shot we plan to see. So the jetpack's got to work like this. So we could give it to our artist to say, hey, the jetpack flies this way. It's got a rocket trail that goes like this. And the beautiful thing of our artists is they're all very unique, and we didn't give them a lot of direction. Some of the stuff was created at different times, but in general, we just gave them the script or a little description, and they knew kind of what things should look like. And it was just always amazing to come to that meeting where they had drawn a bunch of stuff that you'd never seen before. And then these
but it's all your ideas, it's your dreams, your images in your head, and partly on paper, but now it's fully drawn. It's wow.
I don't want to break the veil about writing, but a lot of times when I write for this, I just make something like a robot. I'll have a list of names or just something will pop into my mind, and I won't put a lot of thought into it other than, oh, it's a big hulking thing. And then when an artist reads our script and then makes it into something that's their own, that's where I think it really just becomes amazing for me. I'm oh, this actually, from my few words that I didn't think too much about, it became this massive thing. I love it.
And the great thing is if you gave it to 10 different artists, it would look 10 different ways with 10 different styles.
Yeah,
definitely.
Just by what your words mean. And I mean, that's kind of reading a book. Everybody interprets it a little different when they picture the character, because everybody sees them in their head a little bit different.
That's why I always try to read a little bit, just because of my voice in my head. makes things just sound different than like whether someone's reading to me on tape or I watch the movie or something, you know.
Yeah,
it's
no,
a good lesson too.
I need to read more. I feel like my problem is I start reading and like I'm great reading like short story anthology style, but when it gets to like a long book, if I don't read the whole thing like within a certain time frame, I'm just like having to restart the whole book or go back, and it's just like
yeah, I kind of had that issue, and then I got a really good book on short stories that was like, and when they like, I would forget as I was reading them that they were short stories and they were ended, and I'd be like, oh, I wanted more. So maybe just reading books on short stories is all you need, you know?
Yeah, I love like anthologies, even with like movies. A lot of my movie preferences are anthology stuff, is because it's a bunch of little stories coming together, especially if they can, wrap it around with one giant story, and it makes sense. But it's also just, if you can only watch one at one point, you have to pause or whatever, go do something. At least you've seen that, and then you can move on. It's like you're not stuck in limbo.
Well, and a movie should be the length it's meant to be, and like worked on a few things, and I've been to a few film festivals this year, and just basically all they show is shorts, but they're really good shorts, they're
They are
really good shorts. And it's like I just forgot about Love, Death, and Robots, but like watched them all, and those are just nothing but animated shorts, that find an audience,
Well, that's what I've been also hearing from talking to directors and people in cons and stuff. It's like sometimes you don't have to start with just a feature. You don't have to start like even the Terrifier franchise. It started as a short, and then it turned into an anthology, and then it turned into a feature film, and then it turned into something bigger than that. It started off small and just grew, and they were like, just get it out there, get a few things out there, and then if you can wrap it around, now you got an anthology. Like, it doesn't have to be this big thing just to start. Just get your ideas out there the best you can with what you got.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, because like you need to think of what the value is. Okay, so if you're making something for yourself, well, you're making it for yourself, that's awesome. If you don't have a studio waiting there for it, then all right, well, you're making because you want to make it. There's a lot of value in making a short film because you can show it to people, not just your friends. I mean, your friends, hopefully they'll be honest, but they might or might not. It's fine. And really, the fact that you finished a movie at all is awesome and worthy, because I mean, I've been shooting films for, professionally, about 25 years, and there's still stuff that I shot back then that's not done. So if anybody is listening and has made a film, and maybe they're not even proud of it, for whatever reason, we all get critical. Your film is better than that one that I shot 25 years ago that's never been done, with some of the most beautiful stuff I've ever shot. So when you're independent, it's all about mindset, and also, if you make a film, like you were saying, put it out to the rest of the community, horror, independent, hosts, go to a convention and meet people. Like, calling it a calling card isn't even really right. It's like a networking tool. It's like, if you submit to a film festival, and you get in, go. Even if you don't, go. As a matter of fact, Infinite Santa exists because we submitted another film to the Austin Film Festival.
Yes.
And we just went, and we were sitting there with Jay Edwards, who was one of the producers of Aqua Teen, and he was doing this animation panel. And Greg asked, he's like, "So, how do you do it?" He's like, "Oh, well, we draw it, scan it into Photoshop, animate in After Effects, edit in Final Cut." And Greg and I looked at it, and we're like, "Well, we could do that. We know how that works." And then we did. So, being present at these things, even like at Terracon, where we met you guys, the network is there. And in horror in particular, and also sci-fi and genre stuff, but horror, for whatever reason, tends to be very inclusive and supportive. Like, you meet the audience there. I was just at Horror Hound Weekend 2 weekends ago and met all these great people. And, so I think that's a good lesson for independence in general, in particular for anybody who's listening.
Say goodnight to everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, big man.
Almost my bedtime.
I know, right?
I'm hearing you.
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't believe in a bad horror film. I like you said, I know there's films out there that are considered bad and they get critiqued, but at the end of the day, if someone's putting something out, good, bad, whatever, they went further than not getting it out there, A, and B, even a bad film, it depends what what your definition of bad is. Is it bad because it's low budget? Well, they got their story right with what they had. On the independent level, you got what you got. There's nobody sitting behind you with a check in hand going, let's get this job done. You're coming out of your own pocket, or like you said, you're taking time to get it done, and maybe you get, some producers that want to invest. But other than that, it's a lot of yourself.
Versace, let me ask you a question. Is the horror scene similar to podcasting? People just have it's like gets in their head like, okay, if I put something out, it's gonna suck.
100%, 100%
out there. This is the first step is just getting something out there.
100%, because you saw me put out that short today that was like 2 minutes long or whatever. But there's tons of stuff that I've shot and I've spent the whole day filming. And I'm just like, no, I don't like it. I've edited it and I've just deleted the whole thing, gotten rid of it, and thrown it away. And it's like, no. And I could have done that all the time, but then at one point, I'm just like, no, okay, you know what? I'm just going to let this fly. I can always go back and re-edit it. I have the originals. I have the edits. I have all the cuts. I have all this everything. Let me get it out there, see what happens with it. If it sucks, it sucks, but it's out there.
Because I've done podcasts before where I've literally lost power, the episode, and I'm just like, you know what? It's material. Whether it's good, bad, whatever, it is material. It shows I've been working. I'm working hard. I'm hustling. Screw it. Put it out there.
Oh yeah, I think there's that thing of if you're a producer, you're supposed to produce, and you never. That's kind of why you put a piece of art out there. Is you'll never, unless you show it to people, you'll never know what their reaction will be. And I think however you produce it, I mean, there's like film, and then there's film business, and the film business exists because people do make really good films. So it's kind of like this, how do you make good films? Well, you got to just start, and you got to, like you said, watch films. You can't expect to make a good film without knowing your vocabulary of films and seeing what role you might like doing in films, because there's so many, music is very singular sometimes. It's a person and their guitar, maybe they hire a band, where you can't do everything on a film yourself. Like, you can learn every part, but as it gets bigger, it's nicer to have these great people work for you,
Yeah, I'll be honest, at this point, my movies that I'm doing just now are basic because it is just me. I'm not using
But you got to learn the craft of, like you said, having good sound, having a good shot. And if you expect to be a filmmaker, you have to know all of that and more.
Yeah. But I have no camera operator. So everything's, just a stationary, tripod, or I'm using a phone.
But that's good. Position. You're using a tripod, it's and it's level, it's like, there's just some basics, and the audio isn't blowing out, there are some basic things that, whether you're doing music or film, you just have to learn.
Yeah, and again, it's all, like I said, it is whatever is available. It wasn't meant to be this big grand thing. I didn't have a grand scheme,
But it's opportunity. If you're not doing it and you're not in the mindset of doing it, who knows what opportunities might come to you in the future,
Exactly. And that's kind of what I was going to say, doing the independent, I was going to ask you guys, what kind of level of motivation do you actually have to finish the project, to actually get them finalized and out there, because there's nobody behind you to push you?
Well, I'm working on stuff that's independent, but it's actually finding a space in the Hollywood era. Hopefully, I can't really talk too much about it, but it's the person who's running it. It bleeds it. I don't think she's made a paycheck on it, but she bleeds it. It's you have to be so driven to want to tell that story, that because you got to get people to kind of follow you. You really do. It's somewhat being a leader, after, Mike can speak to it. He's put his own films together. We've done it together. It's kind of, it takes a lot of energy just on that level alone,
Yeah. I think for me, it's I can't really think of myself doing anything else. you know, I freelance film for my career. So, you know, it's changed over the years. It used to be like when Greg and I met, a lot of being a director of photography, editor. You know, recently it's become more into color grading and stuff like that. But I do all that so I can make movies like Infinite Santa or the other stuff I've done. And for me, it's like, I just can't wait to get it out the door. I need people to see it. I need them to react to it. And it doesn't mean it gets easy. I mean, like Greg and I say, the last like 5% is always the hardest, because like you're sick of it, you're tired, you just want to be done, you know, but you have to actually finish. And
you got to get that one sound effect right, or it'll bug you forever, or whatever that little 5% is, you know. But that makes a huge, it can make every little detail in whatever project you're doing, if it matters, because all those little details add up to one great big piece, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, and every little detail can change the direction of a film. I mean, what sound effect you use, what color grade you use. You grading it for a 1980s film, or you grading it for something modern. You can make a whole different story just on how this film looks. Everything kind of fits together to fit what the story is, the time it is, the time period it's in. You know, obviously this is taking place not today, so everything you guys had drawn had to look futuristic, but also it was after an apocalypse, so it has to look, you know, downgraded futuristic. Everything's kind of, you know, been destroyed a little bit here.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because so like we were saying earlier, I think you said, you know, there's the people you get to do something indicate how it turns out, and there's no right or wrong way. There's just a way. Something I thought was interesting is Dawn Scaltretto, who did most of our backgrounds and also designed the RoboMarthas and a handful of other stuff. Her backgrounds are very thoughtful. Like, so like Santa has a ranch, and a lot of it's like repurposed, like it's like an Airstream, I think, is one of them. And there's like an old diner sign and all these little knickknacks and stuff. Like, she brought that to the table, and I think it's a good lesson too, that like you're hiring the artist.
Yes.
Like, you know, we put in the story or in our conversations, just like you said, you know, it's an old world, you know, there's kind of things are kind of new, kind of old, kind of beaten up, all that kind of stuff. And then they get to do what they want with it. You need that kind of freedom, or you're just going to be, well, you're going to be like, you know, I mean, I love Disney, but he used to can entire animation sequences if a blink was off or a drip of water. You know, it's like I mean, yeah, there's filmmakers out there that do that. I love Kubrick. I can't imagine ever working for him. I mean, he's dead now, so I guess I could. But when he was alive, I couldn't. But yeah, right. Working with the ghost of Stanley Kubrick. But it's important.
But like you said, everything you want it done perfect, because you don't want to be bothered later going, damn, I missed an opportunity not to do this, or damn, I screwed it. I mean, not everybody has like the George Lucas, you know, luxury of, hey, let's take the trilogy and let's remaster it, and let's add in all the scenes that we wanted to back in the day. You know.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, to me, like that being one of my favorite movies, the original is just so much better, because it's like when you what's the necessity when you needs the mother of necessity?
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah. When you don't have like a lot of money on a film, but you have a little bit, and you know you can make something work. Sometimes that's when you make the most creative stuff. Like all the miniatures from the original, it's like that's why it looks that like you could do that today. They could have done that before, you know, maybe not some of the things, but that's why it looks so good. It's like,
yeah, like running these like little things along an actual big board and having explosions. And again, that's with the horror too. I mean, you take a lot of the older films, you know, the physical effects that they were using, whether they were low budget or not, will still beat out any VFX today.
Yeah. It's actually funny what you were just talking about George Lucas remaking their film. This is the only opportunity I think Greg or I'll ever have to actually keep remaking a movie, because you're holding the director's cut, you're holding the Blu-ray before. This is actually a different version than the one that came out 12 years ago. We did the web series first and then the film for a few years, but we had to start cutting corners by the end. Not even cutting corners, cutting scenes, because like we're not going to be done otherwise. And we put it out and we're super happy with it. But I animated the rest of the stuff that was missing. And then Greg and I put it all back in, and then we're like, well, no, there's way too much of it. And then over the intervening years, we kept trimming it and refining it. And then there were a bunch of shots where I was like, you know, the expression's wrong, or Santa doesn't have a mouth, or his hand's missing a finger, or like there was some of it was mistakes. Some of it was like, I really wish we could have more finesse when he laughs, you know, like his chest moves instead of like his whole body kind of bouncing, stuff like that. And we actually had the luxury of over about 10 years remaking it. And there's a bunch of good lessons there. I mean, one is get some objectivity if you can, and listen to people and take their criticism and what they like into heart. And we did. And also there's a limit to what you can do, you know.
Yeah.
There's still stuff, I'm sure if I watch it again, I'll be like, oh, I wish I could keep doing that. Or I know there's stuff, but like, you got to let it go. You got to let it be what it is. I mean, Tim Burton, they say he has the film ripped out of his hands. He's like, he's never done with it. You have to like, listen, it's playing tomorrow. You have to give it to us. You know,
I saw the Zucker brothers out here like 6 years ago, and they just made a new cut of Top Secret, and they cut out the whole part with whatever his name on the train, like at the beginning. And they were like, this is the best version or whatever. And then someone raised their hand and they're like, where can we get this version? They're like, you're seeing it here tonight.
Right,
like,
this is it.
Because it's like no one really cared anymore. But you know, they're never happy with their movies, and they're like, you know, super.
Well, that's why we get all these every couple of years. We get a re-release of these movies, and we get a new version and new extras and new deleted scenes. Sometimes even new cuts. But again, cuts make all the difference. I mean, look what happened with Halloween 6. I mean, you got a bad movie and then a really good movie, all just because of the different cuts and music.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, yeah, editing can make and destroy a movie. I have to take off in a few minutes.
Yeah, I gotta head
out. But yeah, I'm more.
Well, I was gonna say I will wrap it up, but I did say that you guys you know, I actually have, you know, this version of the film, and it's, you know, you got it through Synapse Film, which is a great company. I get a lot of films through there. They get a lot of good horror films, and they come pretty fast. Yeah. But I mean, that's good. You know, that's you know, it's very nice to have, you know, somebody producing it and getting it out there and getting it sold. Besides just having to go to cons, you know, you got a production company kind of behind it.
Yeah, like to talk to independents. I mean, we were on another label before, and every film that we've put out, like kind of, we've maybe necessarily haven't got the most expensive deal and made all our money back. But if you make an independent horror movie and it's up to a certain level, and then if you have someone from like the horror convention, like who was sitting there, you can get your film out there. It's pretty easy to find, like not yourself, but find a label that will put it out there, because not everybody makes content. I don't know if you can directly get on Tubi now, or you need to go through an affiliate. But I just went to a film festival thing last week at the Academy Awards Museum with the Rhode Island Film Festival. And the people there were like, I love watching stuff on Tubi. I see movies like you're making. I don't care that 10 people have seen it. Like, I'm looking for that. So like how things are getting out there, and how, like you said, just keep doing it. Be your best and worst critic. Have people that you trust show it to, then you advise, and it you accept their advice or their critiques. You know, you trust it, because Michael and I on different projects, when you hear the same comment 15 times, you're like, I guess we made that mistake, you know? So it's not mistake, but like, you know, question in the story.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we'll wrap it up with this. For the people at home and such, where can they find this right now to buy? Is it up? Do you guys have a website? How do you guys do the
InfiniteSanta.com? You can find out all about us. And if you go to Synapse, there's a link on Infinite Santa to Synapse, but it's also on the Synapse page if you want the DVD. And if you Google it, it's on all the streaming things for free.
Oh yeah, it's on Tubi for sure, which for us is like, that's perfect.
It is, but I do recommend people buy physical media, because you never know when the internet runs out. And I've had, you know, like storms, like we said the other day, we had the tornado. You know, the internet stopped working.
So what are you gonna do?
But I could still watch the Blu-ray when I got home, because I have a Blu-ray player and I had physical media, so I was lucky.
And
Yeah.
it
just looks cool. You get like cool artwork with a physical media that you just don't get with anything digital. You just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I spend extra $20, $30 for like collector edition just because it has like, you know, extra inserts or an extra slip cover or whatever it is, because I do, you know, cherish the physical media. But you know, that's what it is. But thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for, you know, sharing your story and giving us Infinite Santa 8000. You know, I definitely recommend people checking out, and I hope to see you guys at more conventions.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, we'll be there, man. Thanks so much for having us on.
Thanks for having on. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Wow, what a great episode. You know, like I said, the director's got here. You can get it on Synapse Films. I do recommend Synapse. They, you know, have all sorts of different horror films. I get a lot of my hard to find films there, special edition films, rare films, 90s films, 2000 films, all sorts of things. You know, you get a really good quality, really good production value, and it's not expensive. You know, spending an arm and a leg. But if you want to watch tonight, like I said, you can go stream it for free. That's right, costs you nothing, and you can watch some great movie. You know, a nice mix of Santa horror, almost like Mad Max. It's wild. You got to watch it. It's really hard to explain and put into words what it actually all comes down to until you watch it. But check it out. Let me know what you guys think about it. I love to, you know, talk to other people that are watching it and seeing it. It was great talking to the, you know, creators. And we'll be back with more great guests this week. We got a few more coming up, like I said. And yeah, it's going to be a great time. Stay spooky, everyone. We are out.